Hi painting friends, it's Stoof here. Welcome back to my channel. In this video, I'm going to show you guys how to paint florals on a stone planter like this one. This is a painting I recently completed of a first kiss moment during a wedding in Virginia. I started this painting live at the venue and I took it back to my art studio after the live session to add all of this realistic detail. In this tutorial, I'm going to walk you through in real time how I get that realistic look in the floral bouquet in the planter. While I have you guys here, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any more painting tutorials like this one. Alright, so here's the painting progress so far. As you can see, I still need to work in this area, and we're going to be working on painting these florals today. But most of the painting is complete. This is the almost completed floral on the right side, and there's going to be one on the left side that I'm going to walk you guys through. Let's take a look at the palette. So I already have been working here, as you can see, but the colors that are going to be really important for these florals, obviously the greens, we have phthalo green, sap green, I got to refill that. We also got like an olive green over here, green gold, some ochre, and we got ultramarine blue, phthalo blue, umber, burnt umber, and Dioxazine purple. Those are the colors I'm using more in the leaves. And then in the florals, we've got a few different like neutral, mauve, kind of reddish, burnt orange color. So for those, we are going to be using some cadmium yellow deep, some cadmium yellow medium, lots of Naples yellow. That is our friend in every single one of these colors. We have titanium white, a little bit of this cool light pink color, a little bit of this cobalt blue we can mix in to cool some of the colors down a bit. We also have Indian red. This is like a light purple neutral color, and I'll list all these colors out in the description under this video as well. We have Naples orange, that's a really important one. We have portrait pink and a magenta. So those are the colors I'm working with. We also have black. These are all oil paints, and I use citrus solvents, that's this stuff right here, to thin down the paint just a little bit. That helps me get a bit more detail into these petals on the flowers, because as you can see, they're pretty small. I'm using small liner brushes to get in those details. What we have to work with to get started here is just like a base, darker value for where the plants are going to be. It's my reference image. So where the plants go, it's just a dark sap green, brown, and ultramarine blue mixture. In the initial painting session, I put in some florals loosely here just to get those on the canvas. Now we're going to work on top of this. We're going to be building up layers and detail, and that is the next step in the process. So that is what you guys are here for. All right, let's dive into this tutorial on painting florals. All right, just to quickly show you my brushes, I'm mostly going to be using this smaller round tip brush, and then also this little liner brush. All right, for this one, we're gonna get started with sap green, ultramarine blue, tiny bit of dioxazine purple. I'm just gonna start by putting a little bit on there with my phthalo green and a bit of Naples yellow just to brighten that up a hair. And I'll take some cadmium yellow light with some ultramarine blue, and there's just a couple little flowers coming off of here. And I want to make this whole thing come down just a little more. So I'm taking more of my sap green with a little bit of blues in there. Just gonna put a nice little Thing like that. We'll put another one. It's right there. Another one here. Mixing a bit of green gold just to warm it a bit. Very gently pressing there to get the detail I want. And there's another one. Kind of right there. A couple more on this side. I'm going to leave those be for now. Just put a little more burnt umber in. A little tiny dab of ivory black. Just to darken things. A couple little spots. Okay. I'm going to clean my brush. And take some Naples with some of that cool pink and some ochre. And here I'm just going to add a couple more little crosses for some maybe hydrangea. And we've got some over here as well. There's just going to be more Naples yellow on that side. Okay, and then we're going to take some ochre and brown, mix in with a bit of purple and cad yellow light. Put a few more in here. Just like a nice little cluster, and they're kind of in shadow. It's not quite as bright as those two. A few of them will build up highlights later. Let's take some umber and just fill in a couple little spots around there. Separate the flowers a bit more. Same thing here, but with a little more blue. I'm just going to put a couple more under there. So if you're watching this tutorial to get some tips on painting florals for a painting that you are working on, well, it's going to vary from this painting. Your bouquet is probably a little different. And these flowers are pretty small, as you can see. If you are painting florals and you have a larger canvas and florals are the main subject matter, they're probably going to be larger than this little bouquet here. And that's going to change your brush strokes because the size of the canvas will change and you'll have to use a different brush. So keep that in mind if you are watching this tutorial for that purpose. Here I'm just mixing a little bit more sap green, a little bit of ochre, a little hint of Naples orange. Starting to brighten up a couple of these little greens. Going over where I had some before. Just build shadows up right around there as well. And I'll take a little bit of phthalo green, mix it with a bit of Naples and a little bit of umber. Just add a couple highlights there. Just mix some white into that. You can see we had some nice bright highlights on this more phthalo green type of leaf here. Add a few more here. And you may have already noticed this, we're going to be talking about this more in this tutorial. The light source is behind, like back over that way, coming this direction, like at an angle towards the flower, so you can see the shadow right down there on the right side. These flowers up here are going to be lighter and warmer, and in general the flowers on this side are going to be a little cooler, a little more muted in saturation, and not quite as vibrant and bright as the ones in the sun. Just going to put a few more little hydrangea type flowers there. And let's add some more sap green to our blue. And we'll just put one right here. Just to start building up a little more depth. Just add a little more there. And we'll put a few more little flowers in there as well. Let's get some white, with a little ochre. And I'll take some umber, get the bottom part of that darker, more in shadow. And we'll take some Indian red with my yellow, cad yellow deep, and some white, a little cad yellow medium too. And let's just go back to this one. And while I'm on that one, I'm going to take more of my Indian red, mix it with some umber, a little bit of purple, and I'll start to add some of the little creases in the flower petal. So we're just looping around, just making little U-shaped marks around a center point, and then as you get farther out they turn into more like triangles. Alright, and now that we got that part done, we can add more of the highlights. I'm going to take some Naples orange and some cad yellow deep, a little bit of pink. Looks pretty good. Just adding little dabs of highlight in a couple spots. And now that I've got a highlight and a shadow, I'm going to get a nice middle tone color in between those two and just do a little bit of blending. So very softly pressing here and blending out from each little crease. And then sometimes you gotta touch up a bit more, so we can add a little more highlight on top of those spots, just at the outer edge. Okay, I'm liking that so far. Let's work our way around that one. So I'm going to take some more of my sap green color with a little bit of umber mixed in and just outline that flower. Getting a bit more phthalo blue. And ochre, mixing it in with my greens. And I'm just going to go ahead and add a few little leaves at the top. Gonna add some more on this side. Mixing a little more ultramarine blue in with my sap green. I'm gonna add a few more over here too. Just to make this look a bit more full, so it is a bit more symmetrical to the floral on the right side. A little bit of Naples orange. And this is going to give us some really bright highlights. Just mix a bit more Naples in there so that the value is obviously warmer and brighter than what's behind us. I'm just going to take some white. This one's going to be a little cooler. Mix it in with some cooler green. Still need it to be lighter than the background. To separate it a bit more, I can add more of the shadow. Just a little streak of some white on there. Mixing in some phthalo with some Cadula Deep and Cadula Medium. It's not that one, for this one. And we can mix in a little more yellow for top of that. And I want to stand out more from the background, so I'm just going to mix a little phthalo blue, some umber, and my green, and just underline in a couple spots just so that stands out. Okay, we've got some little buds there. Just make a stem. Just using pure sap green here. Just make a couple little leaves coming off of there. Gonna do a couple more there. And we're gonna have a stem over here. Get some yellow. Let's do yellow, cad yellow light and white. These little ones. These are just little balls, little dots of paint. And remember, we're working with oil paint here, so the amount of pressure that you put onto the painting is really important. If you do too much pressure, you might end up just kind of blurring or blending the colors a bit too much. Sometimes you just have to really loosely press and Just like gently put the paint, layer the paint over the layer below it so it just goes over it and doesn't blend. Alright, we got more of these little hyacinth looking ones here, so I'm just going to do some dabs pretty quickly. We've got a few more over here and back here. And I think that's looking much more comparable to the right side now, just for how full it is. Phthalo green with some umber. Put a couple leaves in front of that. A few in front of that one. And I can fill in some of these spaces in between the plant. Gonna go back down here with my dark green as well. I'm gonna take some white, a little bit of ochre, a little bit of purple, and we'll add it. You know, there's some green in there too, so I'm gonna add a little yellow right back there. Little cross marks, but not everywhere. Still want to leave some space to see the green. Get more of a neutral green here. Okay, and then for these more purple ones, I'm just taking that straight up light purple color I had. Just adding a couple little highlights on there to give those some depth. And we got those already. And white and just adding a couple stems. Let's go back to our rusty orange brown roses. Starting with the darker color to get my outlines. Then we'll go in with our highlights. Okay, again with the shadows, which is purple and Indian red. And then down here, we're going to put a little bit more green, just some sap green. And I'm going to work on this rose. First, I'm just taking a little bit of Naples yellow and Naples orange. Just going to put that there in the center. And then as we move further out, we start to get a little bit of brown. May adjust the shape. This is a larger rose. And then for our highlights on that one, I'm just going to mix a little white into my Naples yellow and orange mixture. Just get that highlight there. Want that edge. Okay, and then I'm going to take some ochre. I'm going to use ochre right in the center, and we're going to use brown or burnt umber with ochre. Just blending it out a little. And we'll add more white. Just add a few little flowers right there. Mixing a little bit of that light pink, cool pink. Again, I'm just gonna get the shape. And we're gonna have another yellow one back there, yellow and white. Or like a hydrangea back here. I'm gonna take some ochre, a little bit of umber, my green gold, and just touch up the underside of that, those colors. Same thing right here, there's going to be a rose. And it's going to be white over top of that. Let's put this other one right here. Mixing a little purple with what was on my brush, and I'm just going to outline this one, another rose. Start to add some of the lines and details for that reddish one. Take a little bit more purple, phthalo green, and sap green. Nice dark color. Kind of outline some of these flowers a bit. Just to show there's a shadow around them. Gonna add another round of these little white ones up here, just to make the whole piece be a little taller. Sap green leaves. Mix a little bit of my yellow in there. And I'm just gonna darken this area here. Just adding a few of these little green buds in there. Come back to my purple and brown. Just looking at the shape in my reference photo, seeing where we have those lines, shadows. And just do a little blend. A little bit more purple, cooler purple for this one. This one's just straight on spiral. From the center. Just mixing a little bit more umber in with my green and white. Build up some shadows in these. Shadows in here. A little bit more right there. Back to another nice bright rose here. Mixing in a little bit more brown or umber with a little bit of green and some ochre. And that's definitely a little too dark, but blending it'll bring the value up a bit more. Another little flower right there. A couple flowers. Right there. All right, so now that we got a little bit more work done to each section of this floral, we're gonna let this sit and come back to it tomorrow, and that's when we can add more detail to all of the flowers. Okay, going into this next session, I'm continuing what I did in that first session. Now that all of the locations of the flowers and the leaves are blocked in more accurately, I've got a difference in value between the illuminated by light side of the floral bouquet and the shadowy side. Now I'm going back in and further building on all of these things, making the highlights brighter, touching up some of the shadows, cooling down some parts that should be a little deeper in shadow, building up a little bit more depth with the leaves, crisping up the edges around some of the florals, and just bringing it to a more photorealistic appearance while keeping some of those brush strokes visible so that you can identify this as a painting. It's just continuing the exact same steps from the first session, but building things up. The biggest thing here is just brightening up the highlights and touching up the shapes a little bit just to get things more accurate. And once this step is complete, I call that bouquet of flowers complete. I take a look at the rest of this painting and I touch up some of the trees right behind this floral area to make the florals stand out more from the background. And then I touch up the rest of the landscape in the painting and we have my finished painting. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed this little tutorial on painting florals. Hopefully it gave you some tips for any flowers that you're painting on your own time. If you have recommendations for future painting tutorials, you can leave a comment below and I'll add that to my list of things to paint. Thanks again for watching. Have a wonderful day and happy painting!